Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Miss Brace. Today we are actually going to continue to learn how to multiply polynomials, but we are going to be multiplying larger ones, and it's going to involve a few more steps. So if you have not watched my previous two videos on the distributive property and the FOIL method, I suggest you go back and watch those before you watch this video, unless you are perfectly fine with the distributive property and FOIL. Okay? So we're going to use the same strategies for FOIL and distributive property with these ones. It's just going to involve a few more steps. So we have 2x plus 3, so a binomial, times a 3-unit polynomial. So we have a trinomial. In order to solve this, we're just going to use the same method and the same strategies that we did for FOIL, but we're going to take this first term and we're going to multiply it through every individual unit in the second bracket, and then we're going to take the second term and multiply it through every individual term in the second bracket. Okay, so it's the same thing, only we have 3 terms in the second bracket instead of 2. Okay, so let's do it. I'm going to take 2x and I'm going to times that by x squared. So that would be 2, because that's the same as 2 times 1, and then we have x times x squared, which is x to the 3. Then I'm going to take 2 times a positive 3x, 2x times 3x. That's 2 times 3 is 6, and x times x is x squared. So together we have 6x squared. Then I'm taking 2x and I'm timesing it by a negative 2. Remember to take the sign with it. 2 times a negative 2 is a negative 4. And we have that x here on the 2. Okay, so negative 4x. Now I'm going to take that second term, and I'm going to multiply it through every single term of that second bracket. So I'm going to take positive 3 times x squared. Well, that's just plus 3x squared. And then I'm going to take 3 times 3x. So 3 times 3 is 9. And then I have that x. And then I'm going to take 3 times a negative 2. Is a negative 6. Okay, so that's the hard part. That's done now, and I have actually just already expanded out my polynomial. So now I just need to combine like terms. I like to start with the first one, and I'm looking at 2x cubed. Is there any other term that has an x cubed? No. So that means that is the only one with an x cubed, so I leave it by itself. Then I'm going to look at x squareds. I have 6x squared, and I also have 3x squared. So if I combine those together, 6 plus 3, that would just be 9x squareds, right? We're not combining the x parts here in terms of these exponents. We just add together those front terms. And now I'm going to look at just ones that have an x. So negative 4x plus 9x. Negative 4 plus 9 is a positive 5, so I have a positive 5x. And then this negative 6 is by itself. There's no other constant term, so then I just have a negative 6 here at the end. And that would be my final answer. Okay, so a little bit more work, but the actual math involved is the same. Okay. Let's move on to one that's even a little bit more challenging. We have a trinomial times a trinomial. So how are we going to do this one? Well, we're going to take the front term, multiply it through all 3 of the terms in the second bracket. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this second term. I'm going to multiply it by every term in the second bracket. And then, shocker, I'm going to take this last term and I'm going to multiply it by every single term in the second bracket. Okay, so same process, just more steps. So let's do it step by step. Let's start with our very first term in the first bracket. Let's take 3x squared times 5x squared. Well, 3 times 5 is 15, and an x squared times an x squared is an x to the 4. Okay. Now I'm taking 3x squared times a negative 2x. So 3 times negative 2 is a negative 6, and an x squared times an x is an x to the 3. So just treat them as separate multiplications. So then I have 3x squared times 1, well, that's just itself, plus 3x squared. Perfect. So now you are done with that first term. You've distributed that through that whole second bracket. So let's move on to our second term. I just have an x here. So I'm taking the x and I'm going to multiply it through every term. X times 5x, well, that's the same as 1 times 5, which is just 5. And x times x is x cubed. Then I'm taking x times a negative 2x, negative 2x squared. And then I'm taking the x and I'm timesing it by 1, which is just x. Perfect. Now I have the second term done. Now I need to use this final term, this negative 5, and I need to distribute it through the whole second one. Negative 5 times 5x squared. Negative 5 times 5 is a negative 25, and then I have an x squared here. Now I'm taking the negative 5 times negative 2x. Well, negative 5 times a negative 2 is a positive 10, and I have that x on the 2. And then negative 5 times 1 is just negative 5. Okay, so once again, that's the hard part. That's done. So now I just need to combine any like terms. So let's start with the 15x to the 4. There's no other terms that have an x to the 4, so that one stays by itself, 15x to the 4. Now I need to look at x cubes. I have a negative 6x cubed. I also have a positive 5x cubed, and that seems to be it. So we just have to combine those. We have something x cubed, negative 6 plus 5. Well, that's just a negative 1. So you can say negative 1x cubed, or you can just say negative x cubed. Doesn't matter. Okay, now I need to put together my x squareds. I have a 3x squared, a negative 2x squared, and a negative 25x squared. So let's try to put those together. I have a 3 minus 2, which is 1, minus 25. So that's a negative 24, and then x squared. Okay, perfect. Now I need to look at my x's. I have a 1x and a 10x. So that together, if I add those up, I would have 11x, because that's like a 1 plus 10 is 11. And then I have a minus 5 at the end, so that would just be minus 5. And that's it. So a bit more work, but you just take the first term, distribute it through the whole second bracket, then the second term, distribute that through the whole next bracket, and the third term, distribute that through the whole next bracket. Okay? All right, let's do one more example. What if we have something like this where we have two different variables? So think about it. If we have an x times a y, since they're not the same variable, I can't combine their exponents. So you would just write xy, the same as you would if you were multiplying 2 times y. You just put a 2 in front of the y. Okay? So let's work on this one here. We're still doing the FOIL method because we have a binomial and a binomial, but we just have two variables in it. So that's fine. We can do that. Let's take the first term and multiply it through the second bracket. X times 4x is 4x squared. Now we have to take x and times it by 6y. Well, there's a 1 in front of here, so 1 times 6 is just 6. I can't combine the x and y exponents, so I just write xy. That's fine. Now let's take the second term. 3y times 4x. Well, I can combine the front numbers, 3 times 4. That's 12. But I can't combine the x and y, so I just write xy again. And then I take 3y times 6y. Well, 3 times 6 is 18. And y times y is y squared. I can combine y's. Now, the tricky part here is that these two do have the same variables, even though there's two of them. So I can combine those because they both have x, y. Okay, so I only have one 4x squared or one x squared, so I'll keep it there. And I can't combine it with anything. Then I'm saying plus 6xy plus 12xy. So 6 plus 12 is 18, and I just write xy. And then this 18y squared is the only one with a y squared, so I say plus y squared. That's it. Okay? Thanks for watching.